Hello and welcome to another presentation of the In the Money Players podcast on In the Money Media. Mikey Mike Barbosi here. We're covering a special presentation of the Iowa Festival of Racing at Prairie Meadows, 4th of July weekend. And friend of the show, friend of the family, of course, Eric Decoster, who is now Thoroughbred Racing Secretary at Prairie Meadows. He's going to join me. Eric, welcome back to In the Money.
It's good to be back. Feels like you said, right at home, back on the network. It's like riding a bike. You know, you do it for however many years and then get right back on after a few months away.
Well, Eric, always good to see you, talk to you. I know you told me offline that you're doing well and everything's going great at Prairie Meadows. Talk about your transition a little bit. You've had an interesting year and a half or so. I know you spent some time at Oaklawn. You had your health issues and things, but now it seems you're settled in there in Altoona, Iowa.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a learning curve anytime you step into a role like this one, but I feel like we're starting to hit our stride. I'm really excited for this weekend. I think it came together really well, not just Friday, Saturday, but Thursday, the special 4th of July racing we have today, and Sunday's card is pretty solid. And we got quality horses here and people who care about the state bred program, and that makes things really exciting as the year progresses. Get to see some nice horses, and we got some nice local horses running in our big races Friday and Saturday that I'm really excited to talk about.
Well, Eric, Iowa Festival of Racing is something that I'm not, I've always paid attention to Prairie Meadows, but this weekend is always something that's been on my radar because this Iowa Festival of Racing, it brings a lot of really nice horses into the mix. A horse like Hit Show raced on this card last year. He just went and won the Dubai World Cup this past year over in Dubai. I mean, that's a $10 million race. So we know that the talent is there. You get some shippers into Iowa. There's nice pots. So this weekend, definitely, if you're a fan, you haven't really done much Prairie Meadows, this is the time to check it out.
100%. This is the time to get involved or follow along. You're going to see a horse that runs this weekend that ends up in the Breeders' Cup or runs in a major Grade 1 race down the road. This Festival of Racing always acts as a good stepping stone, or maybe even a spot for a horse to kind of refine themselves and then go on to do amazing things year in and year out. You see it. You said Hit Show. A few years ago, Nick's Go kind of hit a slump. He came here, won by 12 or so lengths, then went right on to win the Whitney and then the Breeders' Cup Classic, being Horse of the Year. You can go back over a decade. Fort Larned had won the Cornhusker, then went on to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's a race, and that's just the Cornhusker, right? We can go through all the other races and find horses who went on to win on the big stage, whether that's at Saratoga in their next start. Once again, the Breeders' Cup, you'll see a horse that runs this weekend that no doubt will get something that ends up in Del Mar this fall. So it's really exciting. You can't always predict which one it'll be, but you'll see a star at some point this weekend.
Well, Prairie Meadows a little bit new to In the Money, but Prairie reached out and was interested in getting involved and getting some of the content on the network. And one of my good friends, Rick Tangeman, has been doing picks for Prairie Meadows. You can find that on inthemoneypodcast.com. Now, he's vacationing this weekend, unfortunately. I was going to bring him in for the pod, but I had him record a little video for the couple picks for the weekend. So let's bring Rick on here, and he can give you a couple picks.
Hello, everyone. Rick Tangeman, Rick T with In the Money Media. Just wanted to cover some great races we have this weekend at Prairie Meadows in the Iowa Festival of Racing. 4 stakes races on Friday, 4 stakes races on Saturday. What a fantastic job the racing secretary, Eric Decoster, and his entire team did to put these races together. Fantastic races. We got quarter horses, we have thoroughbreds, we have it all. So let's jump in and see who we have here. On Friday, race 7, the Prairie Gold Lassie. 5.5 furlongs, 100,000. I like the 4 in here, Best Friend, trained by Kenny McPeak. This horse has the speed, really, to get it done in here. His first effort on the 11th of June at Churchill was outstanding. I just look for this horse to improve and run over the rest of this field. Let's go to race 8, on Friday. The Saylorville, 100,000 fillies, 3-year-olds and up, going 6 furlongs. Number 2, Over, cutting back from a mile on the turf the last time at Hawthorne. This horse is 7 for 8 at this distance. I just look for him to be stalking and taking control. How about Saturday? Race 7, the Iowa Derby, 250,000, a mile and a 16th for 3-year-olds. Just can't get past magnitude here. Number 4 for Steve Atmason. You look at that Risen Star effort, and this horse, really looking forward to seeing him run. Let's pop over to race 8, the Iowa Oaks, 225,000, 3-year-old fillies, a mile and a 16th. Same situation here. The number 2, Heavenly Sunset with Brad Cox. Tried to get a situation where I could look at both the Derby and the Oaks to see if we can get a price and see if we can get them beat. But I just think these horses are going to rise above them all. So that's some picks for this weekend. Good luck to everybody. Shout out to Mikey P giving me this opportunity. Let's bring home some winners.
And we thank Rick for that. Unfortunately, Rick filmed that video before we got the news that on Saturday, his pick in the Iowa Oaks, Heavenly Sunset, Eric, apparently not coming for Brad Cox.
Nope, they're opting for Indiana this weekend, which, that's kind of the risk you take when you're running on the same day. Sometimes it helps us, sometimes it helps them. You just got to deal with it. Still, 9 horses entered, all 9 other 9 expected to run, so it's bound to be a very competitive race.
Well, Eric, I'm going to have you jump in, do some handicapping with me. I know you can do that for sure. I mean, we've done this dance before. We're going to look at the stakes on Friday and Saturday at Prairie Meadows, Friday, July 4th. And the first post is at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And you have quarter horses to start the card. First 3 races. The stakes portion of the card gets going in race number 5 and have the Iowa Distaff. Eric, they're going a mile and a 16th for 100,000. How about Hoosier Philly showing up in this race? 9 to 5 morning line. This horse certainly takes money wherever she races. You like her? Or are you thinking maybe one of the locals can win it?
I definitely think some of the locals have a chance, but this Hoosier filly, obviously well known at this point by anyone who follows racing for how popular she's been since she was a juvenile and had Derby aspirations at some point. I know I was on that train for a little bit, but we're really excited to have her here, and Tom Amos and a few others for Saturday's races as well. This is one of those horses I was talking about that maybe they just need the confidence booster. She's been in some tough spots again and again, and maybe she just needed to come here to Iowa, re-find herself, and then maybe find herself at Del Mar this fall. I don't think it's going to be easy, though. I mean, Wild About Hillary was a grade 3 winner earlier this year when she got out on the lead in the Bayakoa and never looked back. She's been in some brutal spots her last 2. Now she comes back home where she got her career rolling for Tanner Tracy, and she's in with a big chance. And the other 3 that we haven't even talked about, Insensitive, Corningstone, Broken Hearts Bay, the 2, 3, 4, they come with good merits of their own. Insensitive was really sharp winning the Jack Bishop here in her local prep. Did it very, very easily. Unfortunately, Alex Berzer suffered an injury on Monday's card, hurt his leg, and he's going to be out for a little bit, including this big weekend. So she'll need a replacement rider. But off that last effort, I think people should pay some good attention to her. She's in here, especially if the 1 and 5 kind of hook up early.
Yeah, I like her in here. And 2 for 2 over the racetrack. She's going to sit in one punch. I like the improving figure last time. I think she looms large in here, and you could get a little bit of separation. And you mentioned the speed, Wild About Hillary. I'd imagine that Hoosier Philly are going to be aggressive with. I mean, she likes to be up close. When she races, wow, she's in the mix of the races. She gets blinkers on here. I don't think that they're going to be sitting around with her. If she shows up here, she's going to go. I could set it up for the 2 and maybe the 4, Broken Hearts Bay. Now, she might need to get a little faster to beat these horses, but she raced in that Insensitive race last time. Nice closing effort. I like Tyler Bacon. I think he is an up-and-coming jockey. He certainly likes this track and is doing very, very well over here. Since he's lost the bug and become a journeyman, he's a legitimate rider. I know this horse doesn't like to win much, but she's one that's interesting to me in race number 5 on Friday. Race 7, 2-year-olds now, Eric, 5.5 furlongs here. And this is 2-year-old fillies, the Prairie Gold Lassie Stakes. There's some first-timers in this race. I know, Rick mentioned he liked the 4 Best Friend. The 5 Sassy CW comes in for Larry Ravelli. 2 straight wins, 1 at Churchill, 1 at Saratoga. Actually going to be a big favorite.
Absolutely. Not often you see a horse win a stakes at Saratoga and then ship our way, mainly because Saratoga doesn't usually run before Prairie Meadows begins. Get a little lucky there that Larry's sending this filly down. Obviously, she's in with a big chance. She didn't even have the cleanest race last time out and still was able to win at Saratoga. So she's going to be tough, but Rick's choice, the 4 Best Friend, I mean, she flew home last time out for Kenny McPeak. For him to ship a maiden here to Iowa tells me he has got some confidence that she can take it out and secure some black type here in just her second career start. And I think one horse that people should take some note of is the 6 Song Magic, the Iowa bred. Obviously, that's you haven't run many 2-year-old races here this meet, but this horse had some good steam on her coming into this. You don't see many good Magic offspring that are Iowa bred. So obviously there's some class to the pedigree. She's a very classy horse. She did it very professionally. You'll see she only won by a half length. She could have won by more. Ken Tohill really didn't ask her much when she won that day. So I'm very intrigued. Like I said, there's been some good word on her. So if she can take a step forward from that maiden win, I think she might be able to hang a little bit with Sassy CW and Best Friend.
Yeah, how about the shippers in here, too? You got firsters, horses coming from Turf Paradise, Churchill, Saratoga, Hawthorne, Indy. I mean, just horses coming from everywhere in this spot. There's a lot of horses that have W's that were first-time out winners that showed speed. So this is not an easy race, and I do agree with Rick here with Best Friend. I think the setup, she's proven that she can pass horses. There's definitely going to be a lot of horses going to be rolling on the front here. If you watch Sassy CW, though, she galloped in both of those races, so she could be tough to catch. Carried 122 in here, though, so we'll see what happens in here. Very competitive version of the Prairie Gold Lassie here. That's race number 7 on the 4th of July, Friday at Prairie Meadows. Let's go to race 8 there, and more fillies here in the Saylorville. 6 furlongs, and now a little bit more of a wide open race here. Eric, where'd you go?
This is a very tough one. I can't blame anybody who wants to spread a bit. There's a lot of speed signed on, which could set it up even for the longest shot on the board. The 5 Charlie May, she flew home in the Prairie Rose last time out, the local prep. The 2 horses who finished in front of her that day don't come back here, but she ran just fine in that spot off a 2-month break. So I'm very intrigued to see how she performs heading into this race. The other element you have to consider is the layoffs. Jersey Pearl, Legadima, both probably the fastest horses, maybe most proven horses, but neither one has run since last year. So how they perform is going to be really intriguing to me. And then there's just the classy, old, reliable Ouvra. I mean, she's run race after race. This will be her 39th start. She's already earned over $1 million. And Chris Block doesn't typically come to town, but he was excited to run this filly in this race. So I think that she's one that warrants a lot of attention based on that.
Yeah, she's going to be a price, I think, off those 2 races. The Hawthorne shippers, Chris Block always comes to play whenever he shows up in spots. I thought the 6 was interesting, Bourbon Breeze. Look at her last 4 starts here. Raced it at Turfway and was okay, and then showed up at Keeneland and won an allowance race. Went to Oakland then on May the 2nd to win. Then showed up at Churchill in a 2X. That's a tough spot, and this horse never really takes a ton of money, but always gives her best effort. I think she's improving. I do like her in here. I think she could get the right sort of mid-pack type of trip, and she could be an okay price, but a definite wide open race, and you're really going to have to probably go deep in multis in that one. Go to the 9th and Iowa Sprint here championship, going 6 furlongs. Eric, I was looking at the 1 second ID with the big figures. Hadn't been out since July of 23. Showed up at Lone Star on June 14th and galloped in a 2X, 88 buyer there. Horses in here are going to really have to, go faster than usual to reach that number. And I think that there's a lot of improvement in this one, but there's others that can win.
Absolutely. Glengarry, one of the best, probably the best Iowa bred going right now. First or second in 10 of 11 starts. The only time he wasn't was a race up the Steel Valley Sprint last fall. He came back in his last start, a second start at the meet, won for fun in the Ed Skinner Stakes. It was a small field, but he handled it with ease. And really, the only reason he lost 2 back was because it was a 5.5 furlong race, and the winner of that race, Cap, is a very, very phenomenal Iowa bred in his own right, who is very quick and over 5.5 furlongs. His speed's a weapon there that Glengarry simply can't handle, because I think any sprinter in the country couldn't handle Cap over 5.5 furlongs. So 6 furlongs is Glengarry's game. I think he's going to be able to use that to full effect. I think the other element with that lost 2 back is that was Tyler Bacon's first time on him, and I think he learned a little bit about him. That next race, the Ed Skinner, he let him do his thing, and I think they were much happier with how he performed there. So I think people might be a little afraid because he did lose to State Bred Company 2 back, but I'd look beyond it and trust that last win. Navy Seal's a really interesting horse who comes to town. This Arkansas bred has had some good luck down in Hot Springs, including winning a stakes race this spring. Since then, he had 1 start at Hawthorne, ran second in an open stakes, ran just fine there. This is a good spot, especially if some horses kind of lock horns early. You know, the 1 second ID has got all that speed. I'm not sure how fast General Shipman will be early, but he's capable of sitting forward. And obviously, Glengarry's going to go as fast as he can. So things might just be able to set up for an off-the-pace type like Navy Seal.
Yeah, and we were talking Tyler Bacon earlier, and I will say this too about him, as he is fantastic from the gate. I mean, really one of the better gate jockeys that I've seen in a long time. He can get one out of there, so you know that he's going to be in the mix early, and that's going to give him advantage over here. I do think that he's going to be out now. You know, second ID is going to have to roll, but the fact that Louis Quinones shows up here on a very fast horse, he's another guy that can really get one moving early. I'd be curious to see if those two hook up, and that could, like you said, set it up from somebody from the back. Well, Eric, Bill Duncliffe also is doing work for Prairie Meadows, and he sent out his pick 4 analysis for Friday. So I'm going to go ahead and roll that video. Let's see what Bill has to say on the 4th of July pick 4 from Prairie Meadows.
4th, everyone. This is Bill Duncliffe. It's a special July 4th this year, in my opinion, as it falls in the year we are remembering the 250th anniversary of the seminal events at Lexington and Concord that helped precipitate the Declaration of Independence being issued on July 4th, 1776. And of course, we've got 2 very special Iowa Festival of Racing cards to celebrate this July 4th and 5th. Looking at the July 4th card, I'm going to ignore the first 3 races on the card, quarter horse events for which I am uniquely unqualified to comment. I'll leave it up to others to determine my thoroughbred analysis qualifications as I look at the pick 4 on the card, commencing with race 4. The sequence kicks off with a race for non-winners of 1 other than allowance conditions. The always dangerous Robertino Diodoro ships in the 1, Apollo Rising, for that gelding's first effort at Prairie Meadows. Kelly Von Himmel's 4-time winner, tee-off time number 2, qualifies for this heat as an Iowa bred and owns valuable experience over the oval. Von Himmel also sends out 3 Irish Ransom with preferred jockey Kylie Jordan, albeit at longer morning line odds than the 2. I actually think the key to the race runs through the 6, Special Sort of Storm, who should be able to dictate the pace from his outside post. So race 4 will use the 1, 2, and 6 to kick things off. Race 5 is the mile and a 16th Iowa Distaff. While it would be foolishness to dismiss the chances of Tom Amos's well-known Hoosier fillies, I can't get away from the fact that the 5, Wild About Hillary, may get a chance to set a more comfortable pace than she was forced to in her last 2 against the likes of the Grizzly, Torpedo Anna, and Royal Spa. I'm a bit concerned about dismissing the chances of number 3, Corningstown, for Ken Mikee, but note that the horse that this one trounced in the Mistletoe and Pippin and Oaklawn Beaudraw ran a non-threatening 3rd in the Jack Bishop at Prairie Meadows on June 6th. With her 2-for-2 record at Prairie Meadows, we'll also use the winner of the Jack Bishop that day, number 2, Insensitive. So we'll go 1, 2, and 5 here in the second leg. Race 6, the third leg, is Exhibit A for why it's important to read race conditions. Eligible horses for this 6-furlong sprint for the claiming price of $20,000 are those who have not won 3 races or those who have not won a race since October 4th, 2024. Note that 27% on the year trainer Larry Ravelli ships in the 9-time winner, number 6, Strange Arrange. I'm expecting we're going to see speed from that one, as well as the 4, Brahms Image, and the 8, Bayumbo. I'm going to include on my ticket the 3, Call Me Iceman, who steps up in class for John Arnett. My racing friends also know that I'm a sucker for a closing sprinter in a speed-filled race, so I'm also going to use the 5, Roman Giant, who puts blinkers back on for Kelly Martinez. And you really can't ignore the serendipity of Roman Roman Giant being ridden by jockey Kevin Roman, right? So a little deeper here with the 3, the 4 Brahms Image, the 5 and the 6, and hope we catch lightning with the 3 or the 5, but at least stay alive. This is a great race to close out the sequence. 2-year-old fillies going 5.5 furlongs. While at first glance and second glance, the race appears to go through the 3 Quicksand, the 4 Best Friend, and the 5 Sassy CW, there's no way I can't include the 7 Kickin'. Watching replays is often very instructive. In her career debut at Hawthorne, she ceded the lead to a horse to her outside and passed her on the turn without ever being asked. And actually, she was never asked throughout the course of the race. Jockey Luis Colon never even uncorked the whip on this one, was looking back for any competition mid-stretch, and was basically in a canter to the wire. So you've got to throw the 7 in there. So we've got 3, 4, 5, and 7 in the 7th. One other note on that race, I back and forth on this one about using on my ticket, and I'll be angry at myself for ignoring one of my favorite angles if the 1 Stunning Sapphire stuns the field here. This filly sold for nearly 30 times the stud fee of $8,500. Clearly, somebody saw something there. All the statistics say no, but I'm nervous about leaving this first-time starter off. So let's just go 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7 there. So to recap, in the pick 4, we're starting with race 4. It's 1, 2, and 6, with 1, 2, and 5 in the 5th, with 3, 4, 5, and 6 in the 6th, finishing with 1, 3, 4, 5, and 7 in the 7th. That's a $90 ticket at the 50-cent minimum, which is more than my usual budget, but I hope that we'll be able to catch a couple of prices here, making the investment worthwhile. In the meantime, enjoy a great July 4th holiday at Prairie Meadows.
And thanks to Bill there for that analysis of the pick 4. That gives you a couple other races to look at on Friday for July 4th, and that pick 4 starts in race number 4 there on Friday. So really cool to have Bill included in the show here, and keep an eye on social media for Bill. I know he has some analysis for Saturday also. Eric, we're going to jump to Saturday, and we have several other stakes races, and these continue the Iowa Festival of Racing. Post time Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern again. Start out with some quarter horse races again. We're going to look at race number 6 is the first stakes portion of the card for Saturday. 2-year-old boys here, and the Prairie Gold Juvenile for 100,000, 5.5 furlongs. Another pretty wide open race with lots of speed types in here. Horses coming from all over the country again. Who'd you like?
This is a very, very tough race, in my opinion. The one Lexi's comeback just won his first race by over 11 lengths. The 2 Merciless Annihilator comes from the Larry Ravelli farm. We know how capable he is with 2-year-olds. Went up to Saratoga and didn't run well in the Tremont, but I'm sure he'll bounce back to form. He got the 5 Street Player, broke his maiden second time out by 7 lengths at Gulfstream with a good number behind him. The 6 Good Civilian broke his maiden in Indiana Bred Company by over 11 lengths. The 7 Red Lad just won by 6 lengths. I mean, dude, there's some fast, talented horses in this spot. I think that Street Player is really impressive in this race because he put in a good number last time he ran. Very professional effort in his second start of his career. Did it very easy. Francisco Arrieta gets aboard. He's very live throughout the weekend with his mounts. Arrieta is. But the Indiana bred Good Civilian last year, a filly shipped in for a 2-year-old filly shipped in for the girls race. That was an Indiana bred, and she broke her maiden by double-digit lengths. Now, she ran second in the stakes, but it was a very good effort. And Good Civilian gives me a lot of those vibes heading into this spot. So while I know people will look to Ravelli and the big wins, I think the 5 and 6 are probably the most dangerous in here. I think the 8 Fleek's also one to take note of because Kevin Eichelberry is so sharp with 2-year-olds. That's big program for young horses here in Iowa, and the fact he wanted to run this horse in a stakes first time out instead of a maiden race tells me they think highly of this horse a bit.
Yeah, interesting work pattern on that one too. I like horses that don't have a lot of gate works, and that horse does not, and was firing bullets for several weeks with that one. So, and you get an outside post also, and I do think that that's an advantage. First timers, it's tough to debut in a stakes, especially with a lot of these really quick ones in here. I agree on Street Player. If you watch that race, that Gulfstream speed is something that is difficult to replicate, I think, other places. And this one popped the gate in that race and just galloped away from them. But there's other speed in here. This is going to be a dogfight for sure. And, Ravelli always very dangerous. So Street Player for me, But there's so many other places you can go. I think that is a good look on the 8, though. And you should get a price. And maybe if this horse is bet down, that's even more of an indication that is live, especially first time out in a tough spot there on Saturday at Prairie. Jump to race 7 and Iowa Derby time here. Some nice horses, Eric, but one horse that's not coming is the 2 Big Trust. We got that news yesterday for Brian Lynch, who I thought was an interesting player in this race. Certainly would have been second choice coming out of that Woody Stevens, where really didn't have much room to roll on the rail versus Patch Adams. You get the return of magnitude here. Coming out of the 108 buyer. I know Rick was interested in this one. Rick, you're going to have to eat 1 to 5, I think. But I think everyone is looking at magnitude returning. Eric, what about you?
It's hard to look past him. That gigantic number beat some really solid horses in the Risen Star who came back to do good things. And, it's clear that the barn liked him a lot because they kept firing after some disappointing losses, and then it paid off in the Risen Star. I mean, this was a horse who, when we were talking about Derby top 10s, Mikey, he was right near the top of the list for about a day before they had to put him on the bench. But this is the right spot to bring him back in. It's softer than some of the other spots he could have ran in around the country, and he should be in for a big performance. I will say, though, our local prep winner, Mick Swagger, is one impressive horse. And trainer Bart Hone is having an exceptional meet. He didn't bring a lot of horses here, but he brought a lot of quality, and it's reflected in his record. He's 8 for 15 at the meet heading into the weekend, and 5 of those other ones have hit the board. So the barn is firing. His horses look like $1 million when they come in the paddock, and then they look like $2 million when they run around the oval, because they're running huge races. This horse was a no doubt about it winner of the Prairie Mile. He's a horse that you have to keep involved, in my opinion, because of how hot the barn's been for months now, and the horse is clearly moving in the right direction since debuting at a sprint and then going to 2 turns.
Yeah, interesting look on that one. I was looking at the 3. It's My Birthday. He's danced some dances, right? I mean, he tried. He was in the Sunland Derby and didn't race very well there, but they went straight into a stake at Keeneland. Got a check in that race against Colloquial. That's a tough race and a tough horse. Went to Texas and had really 2 very nice efforts. This was improving for Diodoro. Now shows up in here. Instant Replay, who this horse lost to last time, is a really nice horse, and I think is coming back. I'm pretty sure is in the Indiana Derby this weekend. So this horse is one that, if magnitude doesn't fire, would be one that I think is going to be up close to the pace and could need to be caught here depending on what happens with the favorite. So just one I think that I would like to keep on side, and certainly would add some value to those late multis there in that Iowa Derby for Saturday. Grade 3 Cornhusker Handicap goes as race number 8. And this is quite the field here, Eric. You have horses like Red Route 1 who finds a way to win, some of these grade 3 type races. I thought the 6 Dragon Guard 7 to 5 morning line, I know, is favored, but We'll Take It just was a really nice winner in a race at Churchill over this past weekend. This horse was in the PA Derby last year, won the West Virginia Derby, won the Indiana Derby. He's going to take money. He's going to be tough to beat.
No doubt about it. I think immediately after Dragon Guard lost that first start of the year to Will Take It, there was some disappointment. Maybe he didn't come back the same because he was 4 to 5 and off the layoff. Shouldn't matter for the Brad Cox farm. Losing to Will Take It, nice horse, but wasn't really stakes level at the time. But then this past weekend, like you mentioned, Will Take It comes back and runs that huge race in a very tough field, beat some really good horses, and now it all makes sense why Dragon Guard wasn't able to beat him off the layoff. So second start of the year after an exceptional season last year, his only loss coming when he had to run against Seize the Gray, the Preakness winner, and Stronghold, who's a grade 1 performer in his own right. So very straightforward in my opinion there. I think that Red Route 1, if he gets the setup last year, Unload, did a good job setting the race up for his stablemate, and then almost did too good of a job because he nearly stole it on the front end. I don't think that'll be the case this year. He'll have some pressure from horses like Gould's Gold and Heroic Move, and maybe even Joke Star, who can sit forward into a slower pace if he needs to. So the pace scenario should set up well for kind of the logical contenders in here. I think Heroic Move's worth consideration because he fired a very big race in his last start, even when losing to stablemate Como Rubino Amoide, and Two-Back was dominant at Sunland. So a very intriguing horse there if Dragon Guard doesn't have his best.
Yeah, and Ben Curtis shows up to ride Red Route 1 here for Asmussen, and I have been very impressed with him, with his races and with his rides, and a lot of these big races. I do think that he could fit this horse also. Ben likes to sit and make that one run, so it's an interesting jockey switch. He has a couple months over this weekend here. So nice to see Ben Curtis show up here. I think he's a very sharp rider, and this horse won this race last year. There's plenty of speed for him to chase again. So he's an interesting entrant here for I think a compact but really nice in rendition of the Cornhusker on Saturday. Let's go to the last stake and for the Iowa Festival of Racing. Iowa Oaks, 3-year-old fillies, Eric. And we mentioned Heavenly Sunset doesn't show up, but this is another really wide open race. This could be one of the better races of the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a tough one to figure out because you've got some class and quality with the 3 quick kick, and she's getting some relief here. But last year she was grade 1 placed behind Immersive, the champion 2-year-old filly twice. Paradise City ran in some Oaks preps, chased home 5G back in January at Gulfstream, and then once again in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, where she was 4-1 when the gates opened. You got some quality local horses, in my opinion. I think you can look all over the place. One horse I do want to mention is the 8 Say You Can. She's an Iowa bred, very tricky read because she's done her best work sprinting, and her sire's a sprinter, promises to fulfill, but then she's out of a kitten's joy mare. I mean, that's about as polar opposite as you can get from a pedigree perspective, but it clearly works because they found a talented filly, and she rode a monster buyer in her most recent race, one that does stand out amongst her competitors in this field. Can she replicate it going 2 turns? That's going to be the question. There is a little bit of speed here. And I'm willing to look past the loss in the Arizona Oaks if I'm playing this race because she was very wide throughout. She had a outside post position. There was more speed to her inside, a little bit conservative on how hard they wanted to send her early. And she's just trapped on the 3 or 4 path the entire race. And that kind of spent her when she was beaten at 1-2. But I think if her speed is fully utilized from the gate, and then she can try and take a breather on the backside or something, she'll be interesting if she can hang around late. Very competitive race. I do want to say, though, at the end of the day, the 5 Paradise City, the fact Saffie Joseph wants to ship into this race, Arietta is going to have a very good weekend, I'd imagine. And I think this filly could be a part of that.
Yeah, I agree with that one, and I do think that one's obvious. I was going to try a couple prices in here, and you get a wide open race. I'm a huge fan of the John Ortiz barn. I mean, everyone that listens to me on this station knows this. He ships this filly in here, yes, ma'am, from Indiana. Now, she needs to get faster to win here, obviously. Just broke the maiden back on May the 3rd in Indiana, and that was an open maiden special weight. This horse had been racing at Oaklawn and really struggling, but right at the ship in Indiana, then just missed in a 1X on June 10th. And both of those races were off the grass. Now, shows up in his stakes race here. You get Ben Curtis to ride, so fan of the connections here. You get an inside post. Needs to improve, but could get the right trip, especially with Heavenly Sunset out of the race. I think the forward position should suit this one. And at 12-1 morning line, I do think can get in the exotics. You mentioned the 5. That one is quite obvious in here. Has some class, and anytime Saffie shows up, he typically is very well intended. And this horse was mixing it up with 5G and Kinsey Queen at Gulfstream and Oaklawn. Those are really tough horses that both would take a lot of money in this spot. Just a really nice wide open way to finish the Saturday stakes portion of the Pick 5 car, or the Prairie Meadows Iowa Festival of Racing. Eric, fantastic weekend. I know we're recording this Thursday. Great racing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Also at Prairie Meadows. If you're unfamiliar, new to the network, obviously, but this is the time to jump in.
Absolutely. It's competitive racing, especially the Iowa bred program. You get good quality field sizes and some surprises every now and then, like any state bred program around the country. You can get some crazy results on the right day. So I appreciate you, Mikey, for having Prairie Meadows in the loop nowadays, and we're really looking forward to a great weekend.
Yeah, fantastic to have them in the mix on In the Money Media. If you're looking for picks, Rick has plenty of picks, and he's been doing them every day now for Prairie Meadows. So get inthemoneypodcast.com and check out Prairie. Our thanks to Bill Duncliffe for contributing to this show. Check out him on Twitter. I believe he's at B Duncliffe, so he should be easy to find. Plenty of Prairie coverage for the weekend. Eric, always good to talk to you, have you. I'm so happy that you're doing well. I do miss you on the In the Money side, but hopefully we can get you in the mix in the fall on that end. But you did a great job for this festival, hustling these horses for this weekend. All the best to you and continued success.
Thanks, Mikey. Like I said, looking forward to this weekend, and then once Prairie Meadows is wrapped up, we'll get back in the mix and maybe cover some Keeneland down the road. I love me some Keeneland.
Absolutely. Well, that's been a production of In the Money Media. Jump into Prairie this weekend. Get in on that Iowa Festival of Racing. We'll see y'all next time.